Hi guys, welcome back to Ada's Place. My name is Ada, and if you're new to this channel, if you're seeing my face for the very first time, welcome. In this channel I talk about moving to Germany either as a student or as an employee, the things you need to be aware of, mostly based on my own experience as a foreigner, typically an African living in Germany. And I hope you find my content really helpful. If you have any questions, you can either send me a DM on IG or you can leave a comment in the comment section below. Well, let's get started with this video, shall we? As you can already tell from the title, we're going to be talking about Ausbildung, which is also known as apprenticeship in Germany. Now, what is Ausbildung? Ausbildung, also known as apprenticeship, is the kind of training given to people that want more hands-on experience, or people that want more practical knowledge of a craft or a skill that they can use in the German market. Now, it's important to know that anybody can do an Ausbildung. It doesn't matter if you're a German citizen or you're a foreigner or if you're from outside of the EU, right? Something else you need to know about the Ausbildung is that it lasts for about 2 to 5 years, depending on what exactly it is you're training on. And one of the huge benefits of doing an Ausbildung is that you're getting hands-on experience, when you're doing the job. So it's like practical and theory mixed together. The normal way that most of us are used to for education is usually when you go to the university and you learn theoretically, you attend your classes and all that. But Ausbildung is a different kind of education. It's a very good way of developing a society and an economy with not just, the what's it called, blue collar or white collar kind of education. Right. And so during your Ausbildung training, if you want to apply for an Ausbildung, during your Ausbildung training, you're going to spend more time in the company or in your workplace, and then less time in the school. The time being spent in the school to get more theoretical knowledge on what it is you're training for, while in your workplace you get more practical experience. So they teach you what is needed for this job, how you to become more of an expert on this job. And that's why if you look at the German workforce, even though you have a lot of companies, they have different sets of people in the company, different sets of skills needed in this company, and not everyone has to go to the university or anyone has to have a degree in order for you to work in Germany. You can do an Ausbildung and of course still be qualified to work here in Germany. You'd also be wondering if this Ausbildung is only appreciated in Germany or if it's only accepted in Germany. But one thing you need to be aware of is that most developed countries, they are very open to having the Ausbildung certificate. So if, for instance, you stay in Germany and you got your Ausbildung and everything in Germany, but you want to relocate to a different country, regardless of whether or not it's in the EU, your certificates from your Ausbildung would be very much accepted, and you can still get into the labor system and get into the workforce in whatever country you want to go to. Because you're trained. It's not like you went and got this thing elsewhere. Very well trained. You have your certificates. You've passed your practicals. You've passed your exams as well. So let's give a little bit more explanation on what exactly the Ausbildung is. You know how it is in Nigeria, particularly, where you have the university and you have the polytechnic. The only difference now is that the thing is, I think in the Nigerian polytechnics, it's even more theoretical than in German Ausbildungs, right? Because the idea behind the polytechnics in Nigeria is that you have like more practical knowledge than in the university. University is mostly theoretical. You spend 4 or 5 years in the university and then you come out to look for a job or an internship, and then you get employed, entry role, so on and so forth, right? However, for the polytechnics, it's usually 2 years in, for your OND, you get 1 year internship and 2 years for your HND. I'm not 100% sure how it is right now. If you have more knowledge on, how the polytechnic system in Nigeria works, please put it in the comment section so you can educate us as well. That's the point of comparing the polytechnic system and the Ausbildung in Germany. The thing is, in Germany, you spend 70% of your time in your workplace getting the practical hands-on experience, and then 30% or 20% of your time in the school getting the theoretical experience. So it's very different, but then again, it's a very trained and a very skilled way of equipping or getting the workforce or the economy up and running. Not everybody has to wear a suit, a white collar job, although even in Germany, most companies are not inclined with the whole suit wearing thing. You can go to a startup and you see people very like professionals that are dressed however it is they want to dress to work, and it doesn't really matter. Speaking of some of the skills you can get trained on during your Ausbildung, I mean the number of them. You can get trained either as a nurse or as a clerk or as a receptionist. Like list goes on and on. Currently there are over 300 types of Ausbildung, so it all depends on what you want to do and if the market is able to accept you as a foreigner doing it. And speaking of this, it's important to know that for an Ausbildung, if you're coming into Germany for an Ausbildung, when you apply for your visa, you of course want to know if what you are applying for, if a German or an EU citizen can do the same job, and that determines whether or not you get the visa, right? And so it's important to know that when you're trying to choose a course for your Ausbildung, you have to choose something that is more open to immigrants, more open to foreigners to do the job, right? So before you make a decision on what to do or what to study during your Ausbildung, you have to really check to know if the city or the area you're going to study this Ausbildung is, open to having more foreigners doing this job, right? And you also have to check on the long run, how would you use this, skill that you've gained during your Ausbildung on the long run? Because I mean, as a foreigner, there's a very high possibility that you want to leave Germany someday, or you want to go back to your home country, you want to explore other countries. I personally advise that you look at the skills very well and make sure you can carry this knowledge forward. You can apply it in different countries, you can apply it in different economies, and it will still be very helpful and still be very sustainable for you. So let's talk about some of the requirements to getting an Ausbildung in Germany. Well, first things first, you need to have a good level of German language, because the Ausbildung is taught purely in German. And so you need to be fluent enough in German. And speaking of fluency, you need to have at least B1 certificate, right? So it's not just that you speak B1, you need to already pass a B1 exam. And this is also part of what you use to apply for your Ausbildung. Although for some Ausbildung, for some trainings, you will need up to B2 or C1 level. The least level of German you need is a B1. So if you don't already speak German and you want to come to Germany to study Ausbildung, I really advise you should already start speaking or start learning German. You can go to a German school in your area, in your country, in your vicinity, or if you have access to some apps that you can use to learn German, you can already start with that. Once you come to Germany, you have more time and more opportunity to perfect your German language. Apart from your knowledge of German, you also need a company contract, right? So you have to apply to a company to accept you to come do your Ausbildung in their company, right? And of course you need a contract for this, because this contract is part of what you're going to use for your application for a visa, right? So I'm going to leave a link in the description box. There you can see a lot of companies, a lot of opportunities, for Ausbildung. You choose what you want to do, and you can already start applying to some of these companies, and hopefully you'll get accepted, they'll give you a contract, and then you can already start your application. Okay, so next thing is your school leaving certificate. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be like super trained or super educated before you can do an Ausbildung. If you have a first school leaving certificate, you're already good to go. And so you need this certificate as well for your application, and if you don't know where it is, please start looking for it. It goes without saying that you need to have your health insurance enough for you to live in Germany for whatever reason, either as a student, as an employee, or a trainee during your Ausbildung, right? So when you're applying for your visa, of course you can get a travel insurance, and then when you move to Germany or when you come to Germany, you can switch to either a public or a private health insurance. But it's very important that you're insured health-wise in Germany. One thing too you need to be aware of is, if you're moving to Germany for the sake of an Ausbildung, of course you don't already have a job, you just have a work contract. The salary they pay you, even as a trainee, might not be enough to sustain you, right? I'm going to talk about the salaries later, but I just want to point out something here, because you need to also have a proof of funds, right? Goes without saying, the blocked account, right? The last thing you need before you can come over to Germany for your Ausbildung is, of course, a German visa. You need to apply to the embassy for a visa in order for you to come over to do your Ausbildung. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that not a lot of companies are very open to having interviews online for an Ausbildung, right? So it might also be helpful for you to know that you can apply for a job seeking visa to come to Germany and search, for a job for your Ausbildung. Job seeking visa gives you on an average 5 to 6 months to come to Germany and actively look for a job. And it's actually easier on this visa to get an Ausbildung, right? Because most times the company would want to see you in person. They also want to be sure that you're already in Germany. They don't want to go through the hassle of supporting you for your visa application. But if you're already in Germany, then it makes it a lot easier, right? And I mean, it's also good for you. If you're already in Germany, you can practice and kind of improve your German language. Learning the language when you're not in the country where the language is spoken has its own downsides, right? So but if you're in Germany, you get to already practice your language level in the country. You get to listen to how Germans actually speak. You get to explore the environment. You get to see, you have more options basically. So it's always advisable to apply through a job seeking visa. Now, speaking of how much you can earn while you're doing your Ausbildung, now it depends on what exactly it is you're doing for your Ausbildung. As I said, some professions pay more than others, but it's important to note that while you're doing your Ausbildung, remember I said you work 70% of the time and 30% is spent in school. For the 70% of the time when you're working, you actually get paid for this, right? However, not all apprenticeship pay for the 70% time. So it's possible that you might get an Ausbildung where you don't actually get paid for working, right? But most times, in most occasions, you get paid. So you just need to be aware of this so that you don't expect that you're always going to get paid whenever you do an Ausbildung. And the amount they pay varies too. So for some traineeship, you could get paid 300 to 450 euros per month. Sometimes you could even get paid up to 8,200 per month. So you need to really be aware of this, and you need to be sure of how much you're going to be paid during your Ausbildung. That's while you're also getting your training, like while you're also going to school, right? And then afterwards, after you're done with your Ausbildung, and you get a full-time contract, you get a full-time role, of course your salary also increases, and also some of the benefits, as an employee in Germany, you also get some of those benefits as well. Let's talk about how you can apply. You need to be very clear on what you want to do, because Ausbildung is very practical, right? It's something that you're getting a lot of hands-on training in the job, right? So you're learning while on the job. So you need to be very clear on what you want, and you have to make sure that you're going to enjoy this, right? So if you're a very crafty person, you like using your hands to work, you need to be certain on what you like to do and how you plan on making money from this. I mean, for instance, if you like hair making, if you like making hair, hairdressing and all that, you could get a training to do this. But if in the future you want to have your own salon, you're going to get even more training before you can be able to manage your own business. Next thing is you need to choose what you want to do, right? Choose what kind of Ausbildung you want to do. Choose the city you want to do it in. Because for instance, something that might be acceptable in a city like Berlin, for like a foreigner can easily do this in Berlin, might not be very easy for a foreigner to do it in a different city like say Bremen or maybe Munich, right? So you need to choose the city you want to do it in. And in speaking of choosing a city, you also need to make sure that the field you want to do is very open to accepting foreigners to get a traineeship in this. As I mentioned earlier, the Bundesagentur für Arbeit, which is the foreigners office, they would give you an approval, and so before they can give you an approval, they need to check to know if this job or this apprenticeship you're doing, can someone in the EU or someone within the EU region do this, right? Although most times they're not very strict with this rule. If you already have a company that wants you to get trained, or that wants to accept you to do your Ausbildung in their company, most times they will allow you to do it. They wouldn't really say no, right? So just FYI, just for you to be aware of this. So let's talk about why the Ausbildung is important. I mean, with all these trainings, just for instance, to be a clerk, for you to be a receptionist, for you to be a bartender, you get all this training. It also shows you the quality of service you'll be getting in Germany, right? So if you go to a hair salon and you want to make your hair, you're kind of sure that you're going to get professional treatment, right? So the Ausbildung gives you the opportunity to have like more skilled workers, and right now Germany is very open to, you know, welcoming a lot of skilled workers. And so if you're interested in this, I think you should really consider, you know, the Ausbildung. Yes, this is the end of this video. I hope you find it really helpful. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I think you might want to consider it. And leave comments in the comment section if there's something you think I should mention or I didn't mention and you want people to also be aware of about the Ausbildung. Please leave it in the comment section as well. And I'll see you in my next video. Ciao.